as I do it. Okay, so we're to this point. We've got all our extension wires on. Now what you want to do is load the pots. But unlike, there's a lot of different ways I've seen people do this. Some people will stick the pots and then like finger tighten into the case. What I do, so this is a standard pot, so right now it's just going to float loose in there and it would fall back out. So what you want to do is you take the legs and you bend them just slightly inward. So see how it went? Let's put it next to another one. It's about the depth you want to do. So see, it's just slightly bent inward. And what that's going to do is provide friction to hold this in place so I can load all the pots in and it'll hold in place how I want it, and I have adjustment over it. But the reason I do this way is so that when you have like a 5 or 6 knob pedal in a compact case, if you solder the backs of them all completely, what you can end up doing is having to fight it, and you might have a crooked knob, or you might have issues getting everything all square in the case. But by only soldering the middle lug of each pot, you can save yourself a lot of headache, and you have a lot of flexibility, and the pots will kind of naturally shift into place. Like, you notice how I'm going, I mean, if I really cranked on it, they would fall out. But I have, you know, the ability to load them all in place. And I just find this process is a little bit faster than other ones I've tried or seen. Like, for example, if you get a big bag of pots, sometimes the legs will be a little bit crooked. But I go for just slightly bent inward of exactly straight. Because you don't want the ends to actually touch when you go to solder them. But it helps a lot with getting a really good fit, but also you're not going to fight it when you go to do the final assembly in the case. Like I said, this is especially relevant when you have a bunch of knobs on the same setup. And so all I'm doing is I'm going through and hitting that middle lug with solder, locking it into place so that I just have a really solid harness that's going to be a lot easier to work with when I load it into the case. That should already be drilled at this point. That's just my process. But this is a good place to batch up harnesses. If you know that the boards work, these are SMT boards, they're really consistent. This is actually a really good spot to get them batched up to. And then what I'll do is I'll go and I'll bend up, you know, the pre-cut wires. But at this point, what you're doing when you're looking at this, you can see, you know, oh, this pot's a little bit crooked. This one's got a little bit different depth. You know, just kind of align them. You can check all your clearances and just get them all lined up. So because I've soldered just the one lug, they still have a lot of flexibility, but I can make a lot less work for myself when I go to load them into the case. And then, of course, you know, you tighten all the nuts on and then you go through and solder them all. And it's a lot easier to work with, and it'll keep you from having any really off-center or bent knobs that will cause you problems later. And then you're actually able to center your board perfectly centered in the case as well, so provided your case has been properly printed and drilled and all that stuff. But just some pro tips from me to help with assembly. It's a process that I've done. I didn't realize that this might be something worth sharing, so here's a little short form of my process. So we'll talk to you later.